Hi, I'm Jackson Cantrell. I'm a senior here at the College of William and Mary, and I'm here talking today with Major General Charlie Lyon.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Charlie Lyon. As said, I'm a retired Air Force Major General and an adjunct lecturer here at William and Mary in the Government Department.
Now, General, I think we're going to talk a little bit today about wargaming. Now, we fully got to know each other a good bit in your flagship course titled Wargaming and Strategic Analysis. Do you think that you could talk a little bit about what were your motivations for creating such a unique class on campus?
Well, actually, I'd say it has to begin with the fact that I was deeply involved in wargaming when I was in uniform in the Air Force and led the Chairman and Joint Chiefs of Staff Gaming Division. As I began my journey here at William and Mary, I had the opportunity to attend a few classes, sit in the government department, and I learned about the Wargaming Lab, student-led operation, which at the time was a club, not yet a lab, and had learned that there's a small group of students doing wargaming activities and had an idea that they wanted to present a fairly large comprehensive game last year. So I got involved in that, and that's, I think, Jackson, that's where we first ran into each other, was during Boz Mays last year.
Such an interesting experience Boz Mays was. A lot of lessons learned, and I think it's really informed how the shape of the Wargaming Lab is going to continue on. As a founding member, it's really kind of been a privilege to see just how we have evolved from this nascent little student organization to becoming almost fully enmeshed in the whole of government department with connections to GRI, so on and so forth. But and then with our interactions with Boz Mays, that really did sort of, I guess, spearhead your drive to create the flagship course, if you want to call it that. And I guess let's talk a little bit about how our iteration of the course went.
But yes, as I got into this introduction last year to the lab, I asked people what was their indoctrination into gaming, what kind of formal training they had, what kind of education. And what we found was it was largely what had been self-taught or self-learned, or perhaps through some opportunities, internships where people have been exposed to it. So I thought that it would be very helpful, particularly with the interest that we have in the U.S. government in doing gaming across the different parts of the government, not just the military, but in the State Department and other parts of the executive branch as well, that perhaps we could build a pipeline here at William and Mary that harnesses the interest of the students at an early point, then also harnesses all the intellectual depth that we have in the faculty this year, and start putting together repetitive war games, that is, to be able to repeat this year in and year out. And it was to do this in conjunction with a Call 400 level course, and that's how we got started. So not ideal for building a pipeline if you're teaching it to seniors, but any entry point is a good entry point, and
Absolutely.
Really big lesson, I think, for everybody is don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Find an opportunity, and then you can build on the opportunity. Just as the club worked very hard trying to figure it out without a lot, hey, just jumped in, dived in, executed a game last year, and now we're just layering these additional capabilities into the ecosphere here at the university to get wargaming more of an applied science across different activities.
Yeah, now, to your point about sort of the different backgrounds people had in wargaming, we had quite a different array of cast of characters within our class. We had people who were huge fans of D&D.
Yeah.
We had people who were into Russian literature and culture. You had me with my history, government, weird double major thing. What do you think will attract people to wargaming, sort of exactly how everybody else within our class was attracted to it within at home?
Sure. First of all, let's talk about the Call 400 requirement, which is to produce an independent research paper of some significance in depth. And that's the typical requirement for any Call 400 class. What you all were asked to do was, in addition to that, create a war game.
Yeah.
So it's like extra credit, extra work. And yeah, it's a great question, and it all starts with what is wargaming. It is an event that you put together, a structured event with a purpose and objectives that creates a competition or conflict between the actors in the game. It requires the actors to come up with courses of action, make decisions under time pressure, and live with the outcome of their decisions spectrum. So to me, I'm thinking of wargaming in just that kind of a framework. Creating an environment which allows students and faculty to address serious challenges from our U.S. government, but also in the international security environment. I think most of you would agree that by being in an environment sort of pressure tested to see how your ideas about your research played against others, I think most of you would say, I learned something about my research topic beyond what I would have learned had I just been doing my independent research.
Exactly.
And as I told you all several times during the course, to me, that would be the definition of success. If we could find that you learned something, and some of you resisted, Jackson, but no, I'm just saying that because yours is an interesting one, actually. Your research was on the Global South.
Yeah, I diverged a good bit from sort of the bulk of my peers in their research. I was interested in sort of the, I guess, international political economy and sort of the other, I guess, aspects as well, diplomacy, information, military and economic projections of the Russian state on specifically sub-Saharan and Central Africa.
Yeah. But what you still learn by doing this, and the other thing I should say, so that kind of framework of what the war game was and how we tied the research into the game and what the learning outcomes might be for each of you as you finished your research paper to turn in as your final product. But one of the things that we should also say is that we had no idea when we started the course what the scenario would be for the war game.
Big time.
And I mentioned that throughout the process, that it will come to us. We will decide what it will be. And I said, hey, we'll do this collectively. And then I said, we'll share in it. And then I said, hey, I got a 51% share, you got 49%. But with my experience of designing games and working with sponsors, and to a degree, every one of you was a sponsor for this, because you all had a stake in this, in the outcome and what you would learn out of it. But eventually, the scenario came to me, and it was the Arctic region.
It was.
And what still fit for you was this whole idea of what the Russians are trying to do in terms of, flexing their muscles, using the different elements of power, and competing. In your case, competing in the Global South and the Sub-Saharan. But you take that same thought process, that same mental model, and say, what about if we bring that competition literally to the top of the world?
Yeah.
And so you still got to kind of test all that, what's important to the Russians, and over time, will their competition in the Sub-Saharan be as important to them as the competition for all which is under the top of the world? Time will tell.
Right.
We'll see. But that's what I liked about the ability to pick a scenario and show some value, no matter what somebody's research was on. Now, we had somebody who's doing deep research on ports. That was important for this game.
Absolutely.
We had a couple students who were looking at the maritime domain, one who was looking specifically at Arctic region and climate change, which really set hold with me. One who was researching everything there is to know about Vladimir Putin. Another one who was looking at the People's Republic of China relationship with Russia, the No Limits friendship. We're able to put all this into this gaming environment and let it play out.
I think that even though I was, I guess, a little bit of an outlier, if you want to put a trend line or something, I think it really did help me for the broader game that we ended up deciding with Icebreaker. I think it really helped me contextualize sort of what the strategies are of the Russian Federation in their sort of competition. It's very dedicated to expanding economics and trade and their access to resources. And through that, they project power through that. It really helped me put that into perspective. And I think that even though my topic was a little bit different, I think that I added a good bit to the game. And everybody
absolutely.
did.
Absolutely.
It was a really great experience to both also see sort of the theoretical side, the different readings that we had assigned in class, and then in the design phase and the execution phase of the game, actually see like, oh, what these people are writing about who are practitioners, say for Dr. Margaret McCown, who we actually got to meet at the J8, it's like, oh my God, what they're actually saying makes sense. They're absolutely right about this. And I think that wargaming is one of those few precious opportunities you're actually able to see sort of that intersection of, if you want to say theory and praxis, and be, a little bit high and mighty, sure, but like actually seeing what is applied in readings and see it in like actual tangible means. The immersive aspect of wargaming is also very key. It allows the player or the actor to have some stake in what's going on. And what we mentioned earlier, that crisis and that sort of element of, I guess, strategic, tactically applied pressure really allows the players themselves to feel like they are a part of an actual scenario, that they are who their roles are ascribed to be. And in some ways, that's, I think, prepared me for what I want to do in international relations. I'll be attending GW in either the fall or the spring. That's still up for grabs. But I will be attending GW's Maya with a focus in security studies. I think that what I've learned from your course is that it's not solely about the pieces on the map. There are so many things that are interlocking and interconnected that impact so much on a grander scale. My research in your class sort of taught me that, how resources are being sent to the Arctic in order to bulk up Russian industry, and how the Russian competition with the United States is also impacted by the U.S.'s competition with China and the Chinese and Russian sort of joint partnership. And I know that being able to break things down into matrices or some element of game theory will help me be a more effective member of the international community and as a servant to the United States. That's ultimately what I want to do. It made the big picture, and I guess the little pictures too, all the more relevant and all the more perceivable. It's allowed me to really sort of plant my feet and grow, if you will, to what I want to do, to how I'm going to think about the future of my career, whether it be in graduate school or going into the job market. So on the topic of this transformative course of yours, what's next for it?
Well, probably the first thing that's next is through a grant through the university, I have designed a basic wargaming course, which will be taught this summer. So I talked about the pipeline earlier in the year. So what I see happening now is we are putting together, no kidding, a pipeline where some underclassmen will sign up and take the course in the summer, where they won't have to do a research project. This is all about learning the fundamentals of gaming, just blocking, tackling, different styles of games and all that. And finding those students who are interested in this, taking the class, and then I'm going to have the next year's leadership of the Wargaming Lab come talk to them, and hopefully sign them up for the Wargaming Lab, and then inject that DNA into the lab to continue to expand the size of the lab, grow their capability and grow their capacity to continue to do games over time. So it survives, the Wargaming Lab itself survives this transfer of the original ownership of your class that's graduating, who created this, to survive that and thrive into the future, which is very important. Beyond that, Government 404 Wargaming Strategic Analysis, I'm teaching it again this fall. So we start off, right off the bat, we're going to start with looking at the global competition that's taking place in the Arctic region. We're going to focus on those 4 areas, still focus as we did last semester: diplomacy, information, military, and economics. But I have students from the very beginning pick which one of those elements they want to dive into with their research, and it will apply directly into the game. We'll take this game that you all designed, it's forever your game, Icebreaker, and we have, this is also the beauty of Wargaming, because of the insights that came out, what we learned, part of what we learned, what we didn't know, some of those aspects about as the climate changes and the temperature warms and the ice pack melts, there's more accessibility for more commerce to flow through this region. What does that mean in terms of this competition, enduring competition, strategic competition between the U.S. and Russia? So I've got a full class, I've got a full waiting list.
There we go.
I'm really excited about being able to play this game again and change some of the design attributes and continue to improve it and apply it and adapt it. Every game designer does that. Every game designer continues to iterate. And what I hope is that you, Jackson, and other members from your cohort of last year will, if you're in the area, come drop into the class, take a look what they're doing, talk about your experience, and I think you'll be pretty pleased with what they'll come up with this year too. That's where we're headed.
I really enjoyed the class. It was such a wonderful opportunity to be a part of it. I'm more than willing to come back and lend my support to the youngins, I guess, for the next generation of competition and conflict and diplomacy and cooperation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Cheers
to Wargaming.